You eat but don't help, my daughter-in-law hissed at me, her eyes sharp like knives. I sat there at the dining table, my fork halfway to my mouth, frozen. The air in the room went cold, even though the heater was running in our Tennessee home. My son, Daniel, pretended not to hear. He kept chewing, looking down at his plate like the food had suddenly become the most interesting thing in the world. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. At 65 years old, my bones were too tired to wrestle with cruel words. Instead, I stayed quiet. But that night, while they slept in the house I owned, the same house they moved into when they begged me for help years ago, I made a decision. I picked up the phone, called a realtor friend of mine, and within a week, the paperwork was done. The house was sold. By the time they found out, their things were packed in storage, and they were standing on the porch with nowhere to go, begging me for a place to stay. That was the moment I finally took back my power. But how did we get here? How did I, a grandmother who once gave everything for her family, become the villain in their eyes, only to turn into the one person they had to beg from? Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Let me know where you are watching from. You don't know, you might be lucky to get a shout out on our next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you like stories like this. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. When I first moved into that house, it wasn't supposed to be forever. After my husband, Robert, passed away, the world turned gray for me. We had been married for 42 years. He built that house with his bare hands and worked 2 jobs to pay it off. Every nail, every board carried his sweat and love. I thought I'd spend the rest of my days there, surrounded by his memory. But grief has a way of making even the warmest home feel cold. My son, Daniel, knew I was struggling. He and his wife, Amanda, lived in an apartment in Nashville with their 2 kids. Rent was expensive, and money was always tight. One evening, Daniel called and said, "Mom, maybe we can all stay together. You won't be lonely, and we can save money for the kids. It's a win-win." I said yes without thinking twice. A house is just a building. Family makes it a home. At least, that's what I believed back then. The first few months were sweet. The kids filled the house with laughter. Amanda cooked dinner. Daniel helped me fix things, and I felt useful again. But slowly, the sweetness turned sour. Amanda began to change. She criticized the way I folded laundry. She hated how I cooked, even though it was the same recipes Daniel grew up loving. She said I spoiled the kids too much, that I was old-fashioned. At first, I brushed it off. She was stressed, I told myself. Raising kids isn't easy. Living with in-laws isn't easy. But the whispers turned into arguments, and the arguments turned into venom. "You eat but don't help," she spat one night after dinner, her face tight with anger. It cut me deep because it wasn't true. I cooked. I cleaned. I babysat so she could rest. I even dipped into my savings to help with their bills when Daniel's hours got cut at work. Yet somehow I had become the burden. And Daniel, my only son, sat there in silence, his head down, his fork moving slowly as if the food would save him from choosing sides. That silence hurt worse than Amanda's words. I wanted to believe it would get better. That one day she'd see me as family instead of an enemy. But that night, as I lay in bed, I realized something painful. Kindness without boundaries turns into chains. Amanda thought I was weak. She thought she could bite and I would never bite back. But she didn't know that Robert had taught me more than how to survive. He taught me how to fight smart. So, I decided to play the quiet game. I didn't argue, didn't fight, didn't explain. I just made a phone call. What Amanda didn't know was that the very roof over her head wasn't Daniel's, it was mine. Paid for. Free and clear. The deed had my name on it, not theirs. And in Tennessee, when your name is on the deed, you hold the cards. The next day, I went about life like normal. I served breakfast, babysat the kids, and smiled through the pain. But inside, I had already made up my mind. I was going to sell the house. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Soon. And when the day finally came, the house no longer belonged to us. It belonged to someone else. That was the day Amanda's smile disappeared. But that moment, as sweet as it was, wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. Because taking my house back meant starting a war I never planned for. A war where family ties would be tested, secrets would be revealed, and I would have to choose between forgiveness and revenge. And trust me, revenge has a taste you never forget. The next morning, Amanda's voice pierced through the hall again, sharp and bitter. But this time, something happened that neither of us expected. The next morning, Amanda's voice pierced through the hallway like a siren. I'm not doing this anymore, Daniel. I can't live with your mother watching me all day. It feels like prison, she shouted. Her words carried into my bedroom. I sat on the edge of my bed, listening. I had been up since dawn, folding laundry and preparing breakfast for the kids. My hands trembled slightly, not because I was weak, but because I was angry. Daniel's voice came next, low but firm. Amanda, she's my mom. She has nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. The word stung like a slap. He had forgotten so easily. That house wasn't his. It was mine. I had given him and Amanda shelter when their backs were against the wall. Yet in his eyes, I was the stray, the charity case. Amanda groaned loudly, like a spoiled child denied a toy. She's eating our food, sitting in our house, and doing nothing. Daniel, you need to put your foot down. Either she goes or... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. I could imagine the rest. I sat there in silence, my jaw clenched, until I heard little footsteps. My granddaughter, Lily, peeked her head into my room, her blonde curls a mess from sleep. She was only 6, sweet as sugar, with a heart too pure for the bitterness in this house. Grandma, she whispered, Mommy's mad again. Can I stay with you? I pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. Always, baby. Always. For a brief moment, the storm outside my door faded. Holding Lily reminded me why I tolerated Amanda's cruelty for so long. Because of the children. They were innocent. They didn't deserve a broken home. But that morning, Amanda's shouting took a turn. She's making Lily soft. Every time I say no, your mother swoops in like a hero. I'm their mother, Daniel. Not her. I froze. Those words cut deeper than any insult she had thrown at me before. She wasn't just angry at me. She was angry at the love I gave her children. That was the moment I knew. Amanda wasn't going to stop until she erased me from their lives completely. I should have walked into the kitchen right then, told her exactly what I thought, but I didn't. Not yet. I let the silence work in my favor. Instead, I packed Lily's lunch, braided her hair, and smiled as if nothing had happened. Because the truth is, sometimes the quietest person in the room holds the sharpest blade. Later that day, Amanda left for work. Daniel sat at the dining table, scrolling through his phone. I took the chance to speak. Daniel, I began, my voice calm but firm. I heard what Amanda said this morning. He shifted uncomfortably, not looking up. Mom, don't take it personally. She's just stressed. Stressed, I said, my voice trembling. I gave up my peace, my space, my life to help you. I've been paying for groceries, watching the kids, cooking, cleaning, and still she says I do nothing? And you sit there and say nothing. Daniel finally looked at me. His eyes were tired, heavy with guilt. But guilt without action is useless. Mom, please, just ignore her. For me, I laughed bitterly. Ignore her? Daniel, if I ignored your father's words, we'd still be living in a shack with broken floors. If I ignored hardship, you wouldn't have the roof over your head right now. Do you think this house just fell from the sky? I worked. Your father worked. We sacrificed. And now, your wife insults me in my own home, and you call it stress. Daniel opened his mouth, but closed it again. Silence. Always silence. That's when I realized I couldn't rely on him to protect me. He had chosen peace with Amanda over respect for me. And if I wanted respect, I would have to take it myself. The calm of the afternoon did not last. That evening, after dinner, Amanda walked into the living room with her arms crossed. We need to talk, she said sharply. I looked up from my knitting. About what? About you. About how long this is going to go on. She glanced at Daniel, then back at me. You've been here for months. You said it was temporary. We can't keep living like this. I need my own space with my husband and kids. The children, who were playing nearby, looked up. Lily's face crumpled, sensing the tension. My chest tightened, but I kept my voice even. Amanda, this is my home. I let you stay here because you needed help, not the other way around. Her face twisted with anger. Your home? Are you serious? Daniel and I have been making it work here. You think just because your name's on a piece of paper, you own this family? You don't. That was it. The mask was off. Amanda didn't just want me out of the house. She wanted control. I stared at her for a long moment, then slowly set my knitting down. My voice was calm, too calm. You should be careful, Amanda, I said softly, because sometimes the things you take for granted are the very things that can disappear overnight. She laughed, sharp and cruel. Disappear? Please, what are you going to do? Throw us out? You'd never survive without us. I smiled, a small, knowing smile, the kind Robert used to give when someone underestimated him. And that's when the plan I had been holding in my heart hardened into stone. By the next week, Amanda's laughter would vanish. By the next week, the locks on the door would no longer fit her keys, because I wasn't going to wait for her to push me out. I was going to push her out first. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I picked up the phone again. The realtor answered on the first ring. It's time, I whispered. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was quiet, the children still asleep, Amanda's sharp voice not yet slicing through the air. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, the same way I used to sit with Robert before the world turned upside down. Only this time, my company was a folder of papers, crisp and heavy with power. The realtor had moved quickly. Too quickly, almost. He told me houses in Tennessee were selling faster than hotcakes, especially mine. A solid 4-bedroom with a big backyard, good schools nearby, and no mortgage. Paid in full. Mrs. Carter, he said over the phone the night before, his tone respectful, we already have interested buyers. If you sign, it won't be long before it's off the market. I had signed. My hand didn't shake, not once. That morning, as I stared at the papers, a strange calm washed over me. For months, Amanda's words had cut me down, made me feel like a guest in my own home. But now, those papers reminded me of the truth. I wasn't powerless. I held the cards. From the hallway, I heard small footsteps. Lily patted in, her blanket wrapped around her like a cape. Grandma, she whispered, climbing into my lap. Why are you awake so early? I kissed her cheek. Because sometimes, sweetheart, big things happen when the world is quiet. She nodded, too young to understand, but old enough to feel the weight in my voice. The day unfolded like any other. Amanda stormed around the kitchen, complaining about bills. Daniel left for work with tired eyes. The children played in the yard. On the surface, nothing had changed. But beneath it, everything had already shifted. I began to notice things differently. The sound of Amanda slamming cabinets no longer pierced my heart. Daniel's silence no longer broke me. I had a secret now, and it gave me strength. Over the next few days, the process moved quickly. Appraisals were done, offers were made, and one evening, while Amanda sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, a buyer locked it in. The house was officially under contract. I wanted to laugh, scream, cry all at once. Amanda thought she was building her kingdom here, laying down rules and pushing me out. But little did she know, the ground beneath her feet was already slipping away. Still, I stayed silent. I cooked dinner, folded laundry, tucked the children in. I played the role she had cast me in, the quiet, helpless old woman. But quiet does not mean powerless. One afternoon, Amanda cornered me in the kitchen again. You didn't fold the towels right, she said sharply, snatching the pile from my hands. I looked at her calmly. Amanda, they're just towels. She rolled her eyes. That's the problem. You don't care about anything. You're just here, taking up space. Her words bounced off me like pebbles against stone. If only she knew the truth, that soon, very soon, she wouldn't have the space at all. The calm lasted a few more days, but then the cracks began to show. It was a Thursday afternoon when Amanda found the first clue. She had been rifling through the mail on the counter when she froze. Her brows furrowed, her lips tightening as she held up a white envelope. Daniel, she called out, her voice sharp. Why is there a letter from a realtor? It says something about a showing. My heart skipped. I had been careful. I had told the realtor to contact me directly, not to send anything here. But somehow, one letter had slipped through. Daniel walked into the kitchen, confused. What are you talking about? Amanda shoved the letter into his chest. This. Why is there a realtor talking about our house? Daniel frowned, opening it slowly. His eyes scanned the paper, confusion deepening. I don't know. Amanda turned, her eyes narrowing at me. And in that moment, I knew. The game I had been playing in silence was about to explode into the open. Amanda's eyes burned into me like fire. She held the realtor's letter between two fingers as if it were evidence of a crime. What is this? She hissed, stepping closer. Why is a realtor sending mail about our house? The word "our" made me almost laugh, but I held it in. I kept my face calm, my voice steady. I don't know, I said softly, folding a dish towel as if nothing were wrong. Maybe it was a mistake. Amanda wasn't buying it. She slammed the envelope down on the counter, the sound echoing through the kitchen. This isn't a mistake. Someone is talking about selling this house. And unless Daniel's hiding something that leaves you. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, running a hand through his hair. Amanda, calm down. It's probably junk mail. Realtors send stuff all the time. Don't you dare tell me to calm down. Amanda snapped. This letter says there was an appraisal done last week. Last week? In our home? Without us knowing? How is that junk mail, Daniel? Daniel went quiet. He always went quiet. I finished folding the towel, placed it neatly in the drawer, then turned to face her. Amanda, I said in that same even tone, maybe you should sit down. Her face twisted. Don't you talk to me like I'm a child. Tell me the truth. Right now. Did you do this? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I picked up the coffee pot, poured myself a cup, and took a slow sip. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Finally, I looked at her and said, You seem awfully nervous for someone who thinks she owns everything here. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Daniel's eyes darted between us, his face pale. The children, who had been coloring in the living room, peeked around the corner. Lily's big eyes landed on me, full of worry. My heart ached, but I couldn't stop now. Amanda regained her voice. If you did this, if you're trying to sell this house, you'll regret it. This is my home. My children's home. You wouldn't dare. I leaned against the counter, my expression calm but sharp. Wouldn't I? Amanda blinked. For the first time since she moved into my house, I saw it, the flicker of doubt in her eyes. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, she had pushed me too far. Daniel finally spoke. His voice was shaky. Mom, you didn't, did you? I didn't answer. Not yet. Some truths are more powerful when they're left hanging in the air like a storm cloud about to burst. Amanda turned on her heel and stormed into the living room, muttering under her breath. I watched her go, my face unreadable. The rest of the day passed in a strange kind of silence. Amanda avoided me, slamming doors and clattering dishes to show her anger. Daniel hovered nervously, trying to keep the peace. The children stepped close to me, sensing where safety lived. But Amanda wasn't done. No, Amanda never let anything go. That night, after the kids were in bed, she pulled Daniel into the bedroom. Their voices rose through the walls. She's trying to get rid of us, Daniel. I know it. She's jealous. She can't stand that you have your own family now. Stop, Amanda, Daniel groaned. You don't know that. Don't know? Open your eyes. That woman is manipulating you. First she worms her way into our lives. Then she tries to turn the kids against me. And now she's selling the house under our feet. I won't let her destroy this family. Her words hit me like knives through the wall. I wanted to burst in, tell her she had no idea what family meant, but I didn't. Not yet. Because as much as her words hurt, they also told me something important. Amanda was scared. And fear makes people reckless. I was right. The next morning, Amanda did something I never expected. I came downstairs to find her at the kitchen table with a pen in hand, scribbling on a stack of papers. When I got closer, my blood ran cold. She was filling out rental applications. Amanda had decided if I was really going to sell the house, she'd force Daniel and the kids to move out with her, away from me. And that was the moment I knew this battle wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about who would keep the family. Amanda didn't notice me at first. She sat at the kitchen table, hunched over the papers, scribbling furiously. Her lips moved silently as she wrote, like she was reciting a spell. I stood in the doorway, my hand tightening around the frame. When I stepped closer, the words on the page came into view. Rental application. Her handwriting filled the blanks, Daniel's name, the children's names, even their ages. She was making plans. Plans that didn't include me. Amanda finally looked up and froze. What? She snapped, covering the papers with her arm like a child caught cheating on a test. I said nothing. I only walked past her, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat down at the other end of the table. My silence seemed to make her more nervous than shouting ever could. She pulled the papers closer. We're moving. If you think you're going to pull the rug from under me, you've got another thing coming. Daniel and the kids are coming with me. You can rot here alone. I stirred my coffee slowly, the spoon clinking against the ceramic cup. Amanda, I said quietly, if you really believe Daniel will leave his mother, leave the house his father built, just to follow you into a cramped rental, then you don't know him as well as you think. Her face flushed with rage. Don't play games with me. He's my husband. Those are my kids. And you're nothing but an old woman clinging to the past. I looked at her then, really looked at her. She wanted me to break. She wanted tears, anger, begging. But all she got was a calm, steady stare that made her squirm in her seat. Daniel walked in just then, loosening his tie after work. He looked between us, sensing the tension instantly. What's going on? Amanda shoved the papers toward him. What's going on? I'm saving this family. She pointed at me with shaking fingers, is trying to sell this house out from under us. So I'm finding us somewhere new to live, somewhere she can't touch us. Daniel's eyes darted to the papers, then to me. His face drained of color. Amanda, what are you doing? What does it look like? She shot back. I'm protecting us. She doesn't want us here. Fine. We'll go. Daniel rubbed his face with his hands. He looked exhausted, torn. Amanda, this is insane. This is Mom's house. It's always been Mom's house. What makes you think you can just... Because I'm your wife. Amanda screamed, cutting him off. And I'm not going to let her control us anymore. The children had come down the stairs quietly, rubbing their eyes, scared by the shouting. Lily clutched her brother's hand, her little face pale. Mommy, she whispered. Why are you yelling? Amanda froze, her anger faltering for just a moment. She forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. It's okay, baby. Mommy's just talking. But children aren't fools. They see more than adults realize. That night, Daniel tried to reason with her. I heard them through the thin walls of the house. His voice was tired, hers sharp and unyielding. Amanda, we can't just move out. We can't afford it. We can't afford to stay here either. Can't you see? She's poisoning everything. The kids cling to her like she's their real mother. And you, Amanda's voice broke, sharp with frustration. You never defend me. Not once. Silence. Daniel didn't answer. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy. I hadn't wanted this. I hadn't wanted to drive a wedge into my son's marriage. But Amanda's bitterness had been tearing us apart long before I made my choice. The calm that followed was short-lived. 2 days later, Amanda escalated. I came home from the grocery store to find the locks on the front door changed. The keys in my hand no longer worked. For the first time in my own home, I stood on the porch like a stranger, staring at a door that would not open. And from inside, I could hear Amanda's voice, smug and victorious, saying to Daniel, she can't come back in. Not until she learns her place. The metal key slipped in, but it wouldn't turn. I jiggled it, pressed harder, tried again. Still nothing. At first, I thought maybe the lock had jammed. But then I heard it, the sound of Amanda's laughter inside. My chest tightened. The grocery bags in my hands grew heavy. I set them down on the porch, straightened my back, and knocked. The door cracked open just an inch. Amanda's face appeared in the gap, her smile wicked. Oops, she said sweetly, her voice dripping with poison. Looks like the locks don't work for you anymore. I stared at her, my jaw tight. Amanda, open the door. She leaned against the frame, savoring the moment. I don't think so. You've been walking around this house like a queen, but this isn't your castle anymore. You want back in? Maybe try asking nicely. Behind her, I saw Daniel hovering in the hallway, his face pale, conflicted. Amanda, this isn't. She cut him off with a sharp glance. Stay out of it, Daniel. I'm handling this. I locked eyes with my son. Daniel, I said firmly, this is my house. You know that. He opened his mouth but didn't speak. His silence told me everything. Amanda smirked, then shut the door in my face. The click of the deadbolt echoed louder than any words she could have said. For a moment, I just stood there on the porch, the evening chill biting through my sweater. My husband had built this house with his hands. I had paid every bill, every tax, every repair. And now I was the one standing outside, treated like a trespasser. But anger has a way of sharpening the mind. I bent down, picked up my groceries, and walked calmly to my car. No screaming, no begging, no tears. Amanda thought she had won. She thought locking me out made me powerless. She had no idea what was coming. That night, I stayed at a small motel on the edge of town. The bed was stiff, the air smelled of stale cigarettes, and the walls were thin enough to hear the neighbor's TV. But for the first time in months, I had peace. No insults, no slammed cabinets, no venom. Just quiet. I pulled out the folder of papers from my bag. The house contract was almost finalized. Within days, it would no longer belong to me. It would belong to the new owners. And Amanda would learn the hardest lesson of her life. Never bite the hand that shelters you. I thought of Robert then. I could almost hear his voice. Don't waste your energy on people who don't value you, Mary. But when the time comes, don't let them walk all over you either. I smiled sadly. Don't worry, Robert. I've got this. The next morning, I returned to the house. Amanda was in the yard, sipping coffee like she owned the place. She smirked when she saw me. Back already? Didn't find a better motel, she sneered. I ignored her. Instead, I walked past her and knocked on the door. A man in a suit greeted me. The realtor. He shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Carter. We're all set. The buyers are eager to close. Amanda froze, her smirk fading. Buyers? What buyers? The realtor glanced at her, then back at me. The new owners, of course. They'll be moving in next week. Amanda's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the pavement. What are you talking about? She stammered. I turned to her, my voice calm but cutting. I told you, Amanda. This isn't your castle. It never was. Her face went pale. Daniel came rushing out of the house, his eyes wide with panic. Mom, what's going on? The realtor handed me the final papers. All we need is your signature here, Mrs. Carter, and it's official. I took the pen slowly, my eyes never leaving Amanda's, and with one firm stroke of ink, I sealed her fate. The house was no longer mine, and soon it wouldn't be hers either. The metal key slipped in, but it wouldn't turn. I jiggled it, pressed harder, tried again. Still nothing. At first, I thought maybe the lock had jammed. But then I heard it, the sound of Amanda's laughter inside. My chest tightened. The grocery bags in my hands grew heavy. I set them down on the porch, straightened my back, and knocked. The door cracked open just an inch. Amanda's face appeared in the gap, her smile wicked. Oops, she said sweetly, her voice dripping with poison. Looks like the locks don't work for you anymore. I stared at her, my jaw tight. Amanda, open the door. She leaned against the frame, savoring the moment. I don't think so. You've been walking around this house like a queen, but this isn't your castle anymore. You want back in? Maybe try asking nicely. Behind her, I saw Daniel hovering in the hallway, his face pale, conflicted. Amanda, this isn't. She cut him off with a sharp glance. Stay out of it, Daniel. I'm handling this. I locked eyes with my son. Daniel, I said firmly, this is my house. You know that. He opened his mouth but didn't speak. His silence told me everything. Amanda smirked, then shut the door in my face. The click of the deadbolt echoed louder than any words she could have said. For a moment, I just stood there on the porch, the evening chill biting through my sweater. My husband had built this house with his hands. I had paid every bill, every tax, every repair. And now I was the one standing outside, treated like a trespasser. But anger has a way of sharpening the mind. I bent down, picked up my groceries, and walked calmly to my car. No screaming, no begging, no tears. Amanda thought she had won. She thought locking me out made me powerless. She had no idea what was coming. That night, I stayed at a small motel on the edge of town. The bed was stiff, the air smelled of stale cigarettes, and the walls were thin enough to hear the neighbor's TV. But for the first time in months, I had peace. No insults, no slammed cabinets, no venom. Just quiet. I pulled out the folder of papers from my bag. The house contract was almost finalized. Within days, it would no longer belong to me. It would belong to the new owners. And Amanda would learn the hardest lesson of her life. Never bite the hand that shelters you. I thought of Robert then. I could almost hear his voice. Don't waste your energy on people who don't value you, Mary. But when the time comes, don't let them walk all over you either. I smiled sadly. Don't worry, Robert. I've got this. The next morning, I returned to the house. Amanda was in the yard, sipping coffee like she owned the place. She smirked when she saw me. Back already? Didn't find a better motel, she sneered. I ignored her. Instead, I walked past her and knocked on the door. A man in a suit greeted me. The realtor. He shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Carter. We're all set. The buyers are eager to close. Amanda froze, her smirk fading. Buyers? What buyers? The realtor glanced at her, then back at me. The new owners, of course. They'll be moving in next week. Amanda's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the pavement. What are you talking about? She stammered. I turned to her, my voice calm but cutting. I told you, Amanda. This isn't your castle. It never was. Her face went pale. Daniel came rushing out of the house, his eyes wide with panic. Mom, what's going on? The realtor handed me the final papers. All we need is your signature here, Mrs. Carter, and it's official. I took the pen slowly, my eyes never leaving Amanda's, and with one firm stroke of ink, I sealed her fate. The house was no longer mine, and soon it wouldn't be hers either. The sound of my pen scratching across the final line was like thunder in Amanda's ears. When I pulled the paper back and handed it to the realtor, Amanda's face drained of color. She lunged forward, snatching the contract from his hand as if she could undo it. Her eyes darted over the words, but it didn't matter. The ink was dry. The deal was done. No, she whispered, her voice trembling. No, you can't sell this house. This is our home. I looked at her calmly. It was never yours, Amanda. Not for one single day. Daniel stood frozen on the porch, his mouth half open, his face gray with shock. He looked like a little boy again, the same way he used to when he broke a window playing baseball and didn't know how to fix it. Mom, he finally said, his voice shaking. Tell me this isn't real. I didn't answer him. I didn't need to. The papers in the realtor's hands told the truth. Amanda turned on Daniel, her fury igniting. Do something. Stop her. This is your house too. Daniel shook his head slowly, almost in disbelief. No, it's not. It never was. Dad bought it. Mom paid for it. Her name's on the deed. Not mine. Not yours. Amanda's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at me then, truly looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time, not as the weak old woman she mocked, but as the woman who held all the cards. The realtor tucked the papers into his briefcase. Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. Closing will be finalized in 3 days. The buyers will want possession by the end of the week. End of the week? Amanda's voice cracked. That's impossible. We can't pack everything by then. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem, I said simply. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no sympathy. Not after the locks. Not after the insults. Not after the years of biting my tongue. The next days in the house were chaos. Boxes piled up in the living room. Amanda stormed from room to room, muttering curses under her breath, slamming drawers and cabinets as she shoved belongings into cardboard. Daniel tried to help her, but his movements were slow, heavy with guilt. I moved quietly through the house, my steps calm. I had no boxes, no chaos. My things were already in order, already mine. The children felt the storm. Lily clung to me more than ever, asking quiet questions I couldn't answer. Grandma, why is Mommy mad? Why are we leaving? I held her close, stroking her hair. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, sweetheart. But no matter what, you'll always have me. Amanda hated that. Every time she saw Lily in my arms, her face twisted with bitterness. She wanted me to be alone. Instead, her children saw me as the steady one while she unraveled. By the fourth day, the movers arrived. They carried furniture out piece by piece, stacking Amanda and Daniel's life into the back of a truck. Amanda paced on the porch, barking orders, her face red and her voice sharp. "This is insane," she shouted. "We don't even have a place to go yet. You can't just throw us out like trash." I stood in the doorway, watching the movers haul another couch. "Amanda," I said evenly, "trash is something you throw away. This is just consequence." Her eyes filled with tears. She looked at me then with something I had never seen before, fear. That night, when the house was half empty, Daniel sat at the dining table with his head in his hands. "I should have stopped this. I should have defended you. I thought if I stayed quiet, things would calm down." I reached over, resting my hand on his. "Silence never calms a storm, Daniel. It only makes it grow." His eyes filled with tears, but he said nothing. The calm of that moment lasted only until Amanda appeared again. She walked into the dining room, her face streaked with tears, her voice shaking. "Please," she whispered, "please don't do this. We have nowhere to go. The kids need a home." Her words hung in the air like smoke. For the first time, Amanda wasn't shouting, wasn't sneering. She was begging. But whether her begging would soften me or make me harder was a decision I hadn't made yet. Amanda stood there in the dining room, her hands trembling, her eyes red from crying. Her voice was raw, stripped of its venom. "Please," she whispered again, her chest rising and falling with each desperate breath. "Please, Mary, don't do this. The kids, they need a home. We don't have anywhere else to go." Her words cut through the air like a blade. For a long moment, I just looked at her. This was the same woman who had slammed doors in my face, who had spat insults like poison darts, who had locked me out of my own house. And now here she was begging. Daniel lifted his head, his face pale. "Mom," he said softly, maybe there's another way. Maybe we can work something out." I turned to him, my voice calm but firm. "Daniel, the house is gone. It doesn't belong to me anymore. You should have thought about another way before you let her treat me like I was nothing." Amanda's lips quivered. I was angry. I was stressed. I didn't mean half of what I said. You know how life is, Mary. Kids, bills, work, it all gets heavy. I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands. Stress doesn't change a person's heart. It only shows it. And now I've seen yours. The silence that followed was suffocating. Amanda's shoulders slumped. For the first time, she seemed smaller, weaker, almost human. But I didn't answer her plea. Not yet. The next morning, the calm before the storm returned. The movers finished their work, carrying the last of Daniel and Amanda's belongings out of the house and into storage. The once warm, cluttered rooms now echoed with emptiness. Lily followed me around, her little hand clutching mine. "Grandma, are we really leaving forever?" she asked, her voice trembling. I knelt down to meet her eyes. "Sweetheart, homes aren't walls and doors. They're where love lives. And no matter where you are, I'll always be with you." She hugged me tightly, and for a moment I closed my eyes, breathing in the innocence of her love. Amanda watched from the corner, her jaw clenched, her eyes wet. She hated that the children turned to me instead of her. She hated that even in her lowest moment, she couldn't break the bond one had with them. By evening, Daniel tried again. He came to my room, knocking softly. "Mom, I know Amanda's done a lot of damage. I know she's hurt you. But the kids, they don't deserve to lose their home. Please, if not for her, then for them." I turned my gaze to him. "Daniel, the kids don't need this house. They need stability. They need love. And you had the chance to give them that by standing up for what was right. But you chose silence. You let her insults become their normal. That's not a home. That's a prison." He lowered his head, ashamed. I thought, for a brief moment, Amanda might learn humility. That maybe losing everything would soften her heart. But I was wrong. Later that night, I overheard her whispering to Daniel, her voice sharp and venomous again. She's turning the kids against me, Daniel. Can't you see it? Lily clings to her like I'm some kind of monster. She wants to steal them from me. That's why she's doing all this. Daniel's tired voice answered, Amanda, stop. This isn't about the kids. But Amanda didn't stop. She never did. The very next morning, she made her move. I came downstairs to find her sitting on the couch with Lily and Tommy tucked at her side. She was stroking their hair, her eyes red, her voice dripping with sorrow. Grandma doesn't want us anymore, she whispered to them, loud enough for me to hear. She's selling the house because she doesn't love us. She wants us gone. Lily's eyes widened, tears welling up. Tommy looked confused, glancing between his mother and me. Amanda turned, her gaze locking on mine, her lips curling into a cruel smile. Let's see how strong you really are, Mary, when the children start hating you too. Amanda's words hung in the air like smoke, suffocating and poisonous. Grandma doesn't want us anymore. She doesn't love us. She wants us gone. Lily's small shoulders began to shake. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she turned to me, her voice cracking. Grandma, is that true? Do you not love us? My heart shattered. I stepped forward, kneeling so I was level with her. Sweetheart, that's not true. I love you more than anything in this world. You are my heart, Lily. You and your brother mean everything to me. But Amanda wasn't done. She pulled the children closer, wrapping her arms around them like chains. Don't listen to her. If she loved you, she wouldn't take your home away. She wouldn't make us leave. Daniel rushed into the room then, his face pale. Amanda, stop. But she only raised her voice, louder, harsher. No, they deserve to know the truth. Their so-called grandma is throwing us out. She's heartless. She's selfish. I rose to my feet slowly, my eyes locking on Amanda's. For a moment, we said nothing. It was a silent war. Mother against daughter-in-law, truth against lies. Lily, Tommy, I said gently, look at me. The children's tearful eyes turned toward me. Sometimes, I continued, people who are hurting say things that aren't true. They say things to make themselves feel stronger. But my love for you will never change. No matter where we live, no matter what happens, I will always be your grandma. Lily sniffled, wiping her nose on her sleeve. Tommy shifted uncomfortably. They were too young to untangle the lies from the truth. But deep down, children know. They always know. Amanda's face twisted with rage. You think you can talk your way out of this? You think they'll still believe you after everything you've done? Daniel stepped forward, his voice shaking. Amanda, that's enough. Mom isn't the problem here. You are. Her eyes widened, stunned that Daniel had finally raised his voice against her. The tension snapped like a taut string, and Amanda stormed from the room, dragging the children with her. They cried out, reaching back toward me, but her grip was iron. The house fell into silence after that storm. For the next few days, I tried to soften the damage Amanda had done. I spent time with the children whenever I could, reading to them, cooking their favorite meals, telling them stories about when Daniel was a boy. Slowly, their laughter returned, but the cracks Amanda left in their hearts lingered. Daniel spent those days in torment. He barely spoke, barely slept. At night, I'd find him pacing the halls, his face etched with regret. Mom, he confessed one evening, his voice heavy with shame, I let this go too far. I thought keeping the peace was better than fighting, but all I did was let her tear us apart. I placed a hand on his shoulder. It's not too late, Daniel, but you need to choose your silence or your family's healing. He nodded, though his eyes told me he wasn't ready to answer. For a brief moment, the house felt calm again. Amanda kept her distance, stewing in her own corner, plotting. I knew she wasn't finished. I could see it in the way her eyes followed me, in the way she clenched her fists when the children laughed with me. And then she made her move. On the fifth night, I woke to the sound of drawers slamming. I stepped into the hallway, and there she was, Amanda, dragging suitcases out of the bedrooms, stuffing clothes into them with wild, frantic hands. Daniel stumbled after her, confused. Amanda, what are you doing? She spun on him, her face twisted with fury and desperation. If your mother won't give us a home, then I'll find one myself. I'm taking the kids, Daniel. Tonight. We're leaving. Her words sliced through the night like a knife. Amanda's voice was sharp and final, echoing through the empty halls of the house. I'm taking the kids. Tonight. We're leaving. Lily, who had woken up from the noise, stood in the doorway clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide with fear. Tommy peeked from behind her, rubbing his tired eyes. No, Lily cried, rushing forward. She grabbed Daniel's leg, her little voice desperate. Daddy, please don't let Mommy take us away. Daniel froze, caught in a storm he had created by his silence. His eyes darted between his wife, wild with anger, and his children, trembling with fear. Amanda slammed another suitcase shut and yanked it upright. Daniel, you either come with me now, or you stay here with her, she spat, pointing a trembling finger at me. But the kids are mine. They're coming with me. I stepped forward, my voice low but steady. Amanda, you're not taking them in the middle of the night like criminals. They are children, not pawns in your war against me. She spun on me, her face red with rage. You think you own everything, don't you? The house, my husband, even my children. But you don't, Mary. They're mine. Her scream shook the walls. Daniel finally moved, stepping between us. His chest rose and fell rapidly, his hands outstretched. Amanda, stop. Just stop. You can't take them like this. This isn't right. Her eyes narrowed. So you choose her then? You choose your mother over your wife. Daniel's lips trembled. He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any words. Amanda's face twisted, her fury spilling over. She grabbed Lily's arm and tried to pull her toward the door. Lily screamed, her small voice breaking the night. Daddy, Grandma, don't let her take me. That was it. My heart snapped. I rushed forward, pulling Lily back into my arms, shielding her trembling body against my chest. You're not taking her, Amanda, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Not like this. Not ever again. Amanda's eyes blazed. For a terrifying moment, I thought she might actually strike me. But then Daniel stepped in, grabbing her wrist gently but firmly. Amanda, he said, his voice hollow, you need to stop. You're hurting them. You're hurting all of us. Her body went rigid, her jaw tight, her eyes flashing with betrayal. And then she let go. The suitcase dropped with a heavy thud, the sound echoing through the silent house. Without another word, she turned and stormed into the guest room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. The house fell silent except for Lily's sobs against my chest. I carried her back to her bed, Tommy trailing quietly behind us. He climbed in beside his sister, wrapping his small arms around her. Their little faces were wet with tears, their innocence bruised by the storm swirling around them. Grandma, Lily whispered through her sobs, please don't let Mommy take us away. I stroked her hair gently, kissing her forehead. No one is taking you away, sweetheart. You're safe. I promise. Daniel lingered in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes filled with shame. Mom, his voice broke. He couldn't finish. Daniel, I said quietly, you need to decide. Not tomorrow. Not later. Tonight. Who do you stand with? Your children and their safety or her rage? He lowered his head, silent, and walked away. For a moment, I thought the worst had passed. But I should have known Amanda wasn't finished. The next morning, she emerged from the guest room with her phone in hand, her eyes red but her mouth twisted into a smirk. She stood in the kitchen, her voice dripping with venom. If you think you've won, Mary, think again. You can throw me out of your house, but you can't erase me. I'm their mother. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to the court in Raleigh. I'll tell them everything. I'll make sure the law takes my side. Let's see how much power you really have when the judge is involved. My blood ran cold. Amanda's words struck me like a whip. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the court in Raleigh. I'll tell them everything. I'll make sure the law takes my side. The kitchen went silent. The ticking of the clock on the wall suddenly felt deafening. My breath caught in my throat. Court. Lily's small voice broke the stillness. She stood by the doorway, clutching Tommy's hand. Her face was pale. Mommy, are you going to take us away? Amanda's eyes softened for a split second, but then hardened again. She crouched down, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Of course, baby. Mommy's going to make sure you live in a safe home. Somewhere better than this. The words cut through me like a knife. She didn't see how those little faces crumbled. She didn't care. Go back to bed, kids, I whispered gently, my voice trembling. Grandma will take care of everything. Daniel ushered them away, but when he returned, his face was pale, his hands shaking. Mom, she's serious. If she drags this into court. I placed a firm hand on his arm. Then we'll be ready. He stared at me, guilt washing over his features. This is my fault. I should have stood up to her months ago, years ago even. I let her tear us down, and now she wants to use the system to finish what she started. His voice cracked, and for the first time since he was a boy, I saw him cry. He sank into the chair at the kitchen table, burying his face in his hands. I sat beside him, rubbing his back like I used to when he scraped his knees. Daniel, listen to me. You may have been weak before, but you're stronger now. I see it. The kids see it. That woman may be their mother, but right now, she's blinded by hate. And hate never wins in the long run. He lifted his head slowly, his eyes bloodshot but clearer. So what do? We tell the truth, I said firmly. The courts may listen to her lies for a while, but truth always finds its way to the surface. And you, I paused, squeezing his hand. You need to finally be the father your children deserve. No more silence. No more hiding. Daniel nodded, determination beginning to flicker in his eyes. It was small, but it was there. For a moment, the storm inside me eased. We had a plan. We had each other. But Amanda wasn't about to sit quietly. That afternoon, as if to prove she meant war, I walked into town for groceries. And there it was, posted right on the bulletin board outside the store, shared by Amanda herself. A printed flyer with my name on it. In bold letters, Mary Wilson, the grandma who threw her family out. My chest tightened as I read the rest. Lies. All lies. Amanda had written a story painting me as a cruel, greedy woman who kicked her own grandchildren into the street. She had added phone numbers, begging for support from the community. I stood there frozen, the paper trembling in my hands, as neighbors passed by and glanced at me with pity or worse, suspicion. Amanda hadn't just threatened court. She had dragged our private battle into the public eye. And I knew then this was only the beginning. I stood there on Main Street, clutching that flyer in my hand, my heart hammering in my chest. People walked past me, whispering. Some shook their heads. Others looked away as if I were some kind of monster. The lies screamed louder than any truth could. Mary Wilson, the grandma who threw her family out. Amanda's words were poison, spreading fast. By the time I returned home to Durham, I felt the weight of 1,000 eyes on my back. When I stepped inside, Daniel looked up from the couch, worry written all over his face. Mom, what happened? You look pale. Wordlessly, I handed him the flyer. His hands trembled as he read. His face turned red with shame and fury. She actually printed these? His voice cracked. And put them in town? Mom, everyone's going to believe her. They don't know what really happened. I sank into a chair, my bones heavy with exhaustion. That's her plan, Daniel. If she can't win in this house, she'll win outside it. She'll make sure I'm painted as the villain before we even step into a courtroom. Daniel punched the wall with his fist, his knuckles scraping against the drywall. No, I'm not letting her destroy you like this. Not after everything you've done for us. For a long while, we just sat there in silence, the sound of the children playing faintly upstairs the only thing grounding me. And then, just when I thought the world had turned completely against me, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, I froze. It was Pastor Evans, the same man who had known me since I was a girl. His church was the center of the community. If anyone believed Amanda's lies, it would be him. Mary, he said softly, his weathered face kind but serious. I heard about the flyers. I thought I should come see you myself. I braced myself, ready for judgment. But instead, he laid a hand on mine and said words that almost made me cry. I don't believe a word of it. Tears welled in my eyes. But everyone else does. He shook his head. People will always talk. But those who truly know your heart, They won't be swayed by gossip. I've seen the way you care for your family. I've seen the way you raise those kids with love. That's the truth. And the truth always finds its way through the lies. Something inside me steadied. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But Amanda wasn't done. Not by a long shot. That evening, Daniel rushed into the living room, his phone in his hand, his face pale. "Mom," he said, his voice shaking. "You need to see this." He held out the screen. It was Facebook. A live video. Amanda's face filled the screen. Her eyes were red from crying, her voice broken and dramatic. "They threw us out," she said to hundreds of viewers. "My children and I were left on the street because of a heartless woman who cared more about her pride than her family. Please, share this. People need to know what kind of monster she really is." My stomach twisted as I watched the comments flood in. Strangers calling me names, others offering Amanda their sympathy. She hadn't just smeared my name in town. Now, she was smearing it to the whole world. And I knew deep in my bones that the storm was only growing stronger. By the next morning, the damage was everywhere. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop on the nightstand. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. And when I opened Facebook, my heart sank. Amanda's video had been shared over 2,000 times overnight. Strangers from other states were leaving comments, calling me heartless, evil, a cruel old witch. Someone even posted my address under the video. By noon, cars began to slow down in front of my house. People craned their necks to get a glimpse of me, like I was some kind of criminal. When I stepped outside to grab the mail, a woman shouted from across the street, "Shame on you." Another man muttered, "Poor kids," as he walked past. It felt like the whole world had turned against me. Daniel stormed into the living room, slamming his phone on the table. "This is insane. Mom, we can't just sit here while she drags your name through the mud. People are threatening you online. Do you understand how dangerous this is?" I sank into the couch, the weight of it all pressing down on me. "And what do you want me to do, Daniel? Fight her back online? That'll only make me look worse." Just then, Lily walked into the room. She climbed onto my lap, her tiny arms wrapping around my neck. "Grandma," she whispered, "you're not bad. Don't listen to them. You're the best." Her words cracked something open inside me. I held her close, rocking her gently, as Tommy shuffled over and leaned against my arm. For a moment, the noise of the world faded away. Daniel sat down across from me, his jaw tight. "The kids believe in you. I believe in you. That's what matters. Amanda can scream all she wants, but she can't take that from us." I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw a man, not a boy. My son, the father he was meant to be. Maybe Pastor Evans was right. Maybe the truth would shine through eventually. But then, the storm darkened again. That evening, I got another knock at the door. My heart skipped. For a second, I thought maybe it was someone here to harass me. But when I opened it, I nearly collapsed. It wasn't a stranger. It was my sister, Carol. And standing beside her, arms crossed, was Amanda. Carol's eyes were cold, her lips pressed thin. "Mary," she said sharply, "I just came from Amanda's. I've heard her side. And I have to say, I'm ashamed of you." My blood froze in my veins. Amanda had just gained an ally, one from inside my own family. I stared at my sister as if I were seeing a stranger. Carol, my own flesh and blood, stood there on my porch with Amanda by her side, both of them looking at me like I was the enemy. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. My throat tightened, my chest burned. Finally, I whispered, "Carol, you don't believe her, do you?" Carol crossed her arms, her eyes sharp. "I believe what I see, Mary. I see 2 children without stability. I see a daughter-in-law who's been wronged. And I see a sister who's so blinded by pride she can't admit she's made a mistake." Amanda tilted her head, faking sorrow. "I didn't want to drag you into this, Carol, but I had nowhere else to turn. Mary left us on the street. The kids, they cried all night. I just wanted to protect them." The words twisted like knives, lies coated with sugar, designed to taste like truth. I clenched my fists. "Carol, you know me. You know the kind of person I am. Do you really think I'd ever throw my grandchildren onto the street without reason?" But Carol didn't flinch. "I think people change when they get old. You've grown bitter, Mary. You've forgotten what family means. Those words broke something inside me. Because once upon a time, Carol and I had been inseparable. We grew up sharing the same room, the same secrets, the same dreams. She was the one who held me the night our mother died, the one who swore we'd always stand by each other. And now, here she was, standing with the very woman who had ripped my family apart. Daniel came up behind me, his voice shaking with rage. Aunt Carol, you don't know what you're talking about. You're letting Amanda spin lies. Mom has done nothing but love and protect us. But Carol turned away. We'll see what the court has to say. The court. The word rang in my ears long after they were gone. That night, I sat by the window, staring into the dark, memories of Carol flooding back. Her laugh, her warmth, her loyalty. And now, all of it gone, swallowed by Amanda's poison. I thought losing the respect of the town was painful, but losing my sister's trust? That cut deeper than anything else. The next morning, the letter arrived. A thick envelope, stamped with the state seal of North Carolina. Daniel opened it for me, his hands trembling. His face went pale as he read. Mom, he whispered. It's a petition. Amanda and Carol filed it together. They're asking the court to remove you as guardian of Lily and Tommy and give custody to Amanda. The room spun around me. My chest tightened. This wasn't just a smear campaign anymore. This was war. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and old paper. The kind of smell that made you feel small, like history itself was pressing down on you. I sat at the front table, my hands folded tightly in my lap. Daniel sat beside me, his shoulders square, though I could feel the storm of anger rolling off him. Lily and Tommy were with a court-appointed child advocate, waiting to be called in. Across the room, Amanda sat tall and smug, her hair perfectly styled, a soft beige suit hugging her figure as if she were the picture of grace. Next to her, Carol sat with her chin lifted high, her lips pressed into a thin line. She wouldn't even look at me. It cut deep. My sister, the girl I once braided hair for, the girl who used to sneak pies with me late at night, now sitting on the opposite side of a courtroom, ready to rip my family apart. The judge, a stern woman with steel gray hair and sharp glasses, took her seat. The gavel fell. This hearing is now in session. Amanda's lawyer began first. He rose smoothly, buttoning his jacket, and with every word he spoke, I could feel the venom dripping. Your Honor, this is a simple matter. My client, Amanda, has been unjustly forced out of her home with her children. These children, Lily and Tommy, have endured unnecessary hardship because of the actions of their grandmother, Mary. We will present evidence that Mary has acted vindicatively, driven not by love, but by spite. These children deserve stability, and Amanda, their mother, deserves the right to raise them without interference. I wanted to shout, to stand up and tell him he didn't know the half of it. But I sat still, because I knew, if I lost my temper here, they would win. The lawyer called Amanda to the stand. She glided forward like an actress walking into the spotlight. Her voice quivered just enough to sound fragile, her eyes shining with fake tears. I tried so hard, she said, clutching a tissue. But living with Mary, it was unbearable. She constantly criticized me, treated me like a guest in my own home. I felt trapped. And then she let out a shaky breath. She threw us out, me and my babies, onto the street. We had nowhere to go. Gasps echoed through the small gallery behind us. She dabbed her eyes delicately. I begged her to think of the children, but she didn't care. She only cares about control. And now, she's trying to ruin me, ruin my children's lives. My nails dug into my palms. Every word was a lie, and yet she told it with such conviction, as though she believed it herself. Then Carol was called. Seeing her take the stand was harder than I expected. She adjusted her glasses, cleared her throat, and then began. I've known Mary my whole life, she said firmly. But in recent years, I've seen a change. She's grown harsh, cold. I've heard the way she speaks to Amanda. It's cruel. And as much as it pains me to say it, I believe Amanda is right. The children deserve better. Those words hit me harder than a punch. Not because they were true, but because they came from Carol, my sister. When it was my turn to testify, I stood slowly, my legs heavy as stone. I told the truth, not with anger but with calm. I am 65 years old. I've worked my whole life to build a home for my family. Amanda and Daniel lived under my roof for years without paying a cent. I cooked. I cleaned. I took care of my grandchildren. I never once asked for thanks. But when Amanda told me, "You eat but don't help," I realized she didn't see me as family anymore. She saw me as a burden. I paused, letting the silence settle. I did not throw her children into the street. I arranged for their belongings to be put into storage. I made sure there was a roof over their heads with Daniel. What I will not accept is being disrespected and treated like dirt in my own home. Amanda smirked, as if she thought my words were weak. But then Daniel stood. "Your Honor, may I say something?" The judge nodded. Daniel's voice trembled at first, but then it grew stronger. "My mother is the kindest, strongest woman I know. She raised me alone after my father left. She's the reason I even have a life today. Amanda," he swallowed hard, "Amanda has twisted the truth. She's painted herself as a victim when, in fact, she's the one who broke this family apart. My mom didn't push us out. Amanda did. With her words, her cruelty, her refusal to respect the person who gave us everything." For the first time, Amanda's mask slipped. She shifted in her chair, her lips pressing into a thin, nervous line. Then came the moment that turned everything. The child advocate entered with Lily and Tommy. The courtroom hushed. The judge leaned down kindly. "Lily, do you know why you're here today?" Lily nodded, her little hands folded. "Yes, to talk about where me and Tommy want to live." "Do you feel safe with your grandmother?" the judge asked. Lily's voice was clear. "Yes, Grandma loves us. She reads us stories and makes us cookies. She never yells." The judge nodded. "And how about your mother?" Lily glanced nervously at Amanda, then back at the judge. "Mommy yells a lot. Sometimes she says mean things about Grandma. I don't like it when she fights with Grandma. I just want to stay where it's safe." The courtroom went dead silent. Even Carol's face faltered. And then Tommy, only 6 years old, piped up. "Grandma makes me pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. I want to live with her forever." That was the moment Amanda's composure shattered. She stood abruptly. "They're just children. They don't understand. Mary brainwashed them." The judge slammed the gavel. "Sit down, Mrs. Peterson." Amanda sank back, her face red with fury. Daniel leaned toward me, whispering, "Now, Mom." I nodded. Slowly, I reached into my bag and pulled out a small USB drive. "Your Honor," I said, my voice steady, "I'd like to submit evidence." The judge allowed it. Daniel handed it over to the clerk, who played the file on the courtroom speakers. Amanda's voice filled the room. A secret recording Daniel had made weeks earlier, when Amanda thought no one was listening. "If it weren't for your mother, I'd already have this house in my name. She's old, useless, and in the way. Once she's gone, everything will be mine. Do you hear me? Mine." Gasps erupted. Carol's face drained of color. The judge's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Peterson, care to explain this?" Amanda stammered, her face twisting. That's not me. But it was too late. The damage was done. By the end of the hearing, the judge's verdict was clear. Custody of Lily and Tommy will remain with their grandmother, Mary, with full visitation rights to their father, Daniel. Amanda Peterson's visitation will be limited and supervised until further notice, given the concerning evidence presented today. The gavel struck. Amanda screamed, "No, this isn't fair. You can't do this to me." But no one listened. Carol sat frozen, shame written all over her face. She wouldn't even look at me. As Amanda was escorted out, her rage echoing down the hallway, Daniel wrapped his arms around me. "You did it, Mom," he whispered. "You protected them. You protected all of us." Lily and Tommy clung to me, their little arms warm around my neck. And for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Later that evening, we sat on the porch of the house, my house, the home Amanda had tried to steal. The sunset painted the sky orange and gold. Daniel grilled burgers while the kids chased fireflies in the yard. I looked at them and smiled. Betrayal had broken me, but love had stitched me back together. Kindness had been mistaken for weakness, but in the end, Truth had won. And as for Amanda, well, some storms destroy, but some storms clear the way. This storm had cleared mine.